Trouble with children, or why they are necessary. Their supper was served in a cozy dining room with crowded bookshelves on every wall and a window overlooking the courtyard. Redbirds twittered in the elm tree outside the open window. A gentle breeze drifted into the room, and in general the children were in much better spirits, having passed their test and at last having gotten some food in their bellies. Rhonda Kazembe had already brought them bowls with tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches, which they'd eagerly devoured. And now she set out a great platter of fruit. And as the children reached happily for bananas and grapes and pears, she sat down and joined them. It's all part of the test, you know, being hungry and irritable. It's important to see how you behave when other children are getting donuts and you're getting nothing, and how well your mind works despite being tired and thirsty. You all did brilliantly, I must say, just brilliantly. Sticky, who still felt sensitive about his performance in the maze, said, "I wouldn't say I did brilliantly. I didn't figure out the solution or find a shortcut. I just stumbled around like a twit." "You mustn't belittle yourself," Rhonda said. "I dare say very few of you could have done what you did the second time through, retracing your steps so exactly. You made over 100 turns." "I doubt I could have done it," Renee remarked. "I know I couldn't have," said Kate, through a mouthful of grapes. Sticky ducked his head. "Besides, you aren't the only child ever to have trouble with the maze," said Rhonda. "When I first went through it, I got terribly lost." "You got lost in the maze?" Sticky said. The other's ears perked up. "Oh yes, several years ago when I took the same tests, I thought I was very clever because I knew right away that I was in a maze of identical rooms. I have often been able to sense such things. Well, I thought to myself, if every room has 3 exits, I always take the exit to the right, and then I'll make my way around the house to the back in no time. Of course, Mr. Benedict have thought of that." "Who is Mr. Benedict?" Renee asked. "Mr. Benedict is the reason we're all here. You'll meet him after supper." "What happened to you in the maze?" Kate asked. "Well, now, if you do what I did," Rhonda went on, "after about 6 rooms you come upon a dead end. And your clever little plan flies out the window. I was so frustrated I didn't bother trying to solve the panels. Instead, I just tried to follow the green arrows for a while. Green so often means go. And when that didn't work, I tried the red ones. And when the solution finally occurred to me, more than an hour had gone by." "But you still passed?" Sticky asked, heartened to learn someone else having difficulty with the maze. "Of course she passed," the pencil woman entering the dining room said. "Rhonda was the most gifted child ever to take the tests. She did so well on everything else, she would have passed no matter what happened in the maze." "Don't be silly," Rhonda said. "If you aren't the most gifted person ever to have taken Mr. Benedict's tests, I'm the Queen of England." At this, the pencil woman's cheeks turned as red as her hair. As she had already admitted, Sticky often got mixed up when he was excited, and in this frenzy of mysteries and revelations, he could hardly think straight. "What's that you said about being the Queen of England?" he asked Rhonda. "Was it a riddle?" Rhonda laughed. "It was only a joke, Sticky. I'm hardly a queen. You know that I'm not from England. I was born in a country called Zambia and brought here to Stone Town when I was a child." "Zambia. So, do you speak Bimbi then, or one of the other Bantu languages?" "Why, Bimbi," Rhonda answered, taken aback. "And how on earth do you know that? Do you speak it?" "Oh, no, I'm sure I couldn't. I can read most languages, but I have trouble speaking anything but English. Can't get my tongue to do what it's supposed to." Rhonda smiled. "I can hardly speak it myself these days. It's been so long." She gave him a significant look. "I rarely meet anyone who knows the languages of Zambia, or much less can read them." "Sticky knows a good number of things," said Renee. "I wish he knew when we were supposed to meet this Mr. Benedict," Kate said. "It's been an awfully long day, and I'd like to learn what this is all about." "As for that," said the pencil woman, "the reason I came in was to tell you that Mr. Benedict is ready to see you. He's waiting in his study." "What about the other one?" asked Rhonda Kazembe. "Apparently there's been some delay. Mr. Benedict said he will meet with these children now, and she can join them when she arrives." The children wanted to know who the other girl was, but there was no time for questions, for Rhonda and the pencil woman ushered them out of the room and down a long hallway into the study of Mr. Benedict. Like every other room in the old house, Mr. Benedict's study was crammed with books. Books on shelves that rose to the high ceiling. Books in stacks on the floor. Books holding up potted violet in desperate need of water. On 4 chairs arranged before an oak desk rested still more books, which Rhonda and the pencil woman removed so the children could sit. And on the desk itself, piled in precarious, leaning towers, were even more. The children took their seats and looked about the study. Except for the books, the furniture, and the violet, it appeared to be empty. "I thought you said he was waiting for us," Kate said. "And indeed I have been," said a voice, and out from behind the desk where he'd been sitting, hidden by piles of books, appeared a bespectacled, green-eyed man in a green plaid suit. His thick white hair was shaggy and mussed. His nose was rather large and lumpy, like a vegetable, and although it was clear he had recently shaved, he appeared to have done so without benefit of a mirror, for here and there upon his neck and chin were nicks from a razor, the occasional white whiskers that he'd missed altogether. This was Mr. Benedict. With a friendly smile, Mr. Benedict stepped around to introduce himself to the children, shaking hands and calling each by name. As he did so, Rhonda Kazembe and the pencil woman followed him, standing on either side as he moved from child to child. When he stepped back to lean against his desk, the 2 women again followed him and stood closely on either side, watching him with alert expressions, as if worried what he might do. It was very curious and more than a little unsettling. "First, children, I wish to congratulate you," said Mr. Benedict. "You have all done exceedingly well today. There is much to explain, of course, but I'm afraid the explanations must wait a bit longer until we are joined by another." He took out his pocket watch, checked the time, and sighed. To the pencil woman, he said, "Number 2, any word from Milligan about our missing young friend?" "Not yet," said the pencil woman, "but he said it should be soon. Will you please go meet them? I want to be sure he's had a bite to eat. Or she's had a bite to eat." The pencil woman gave him a doubtful look. "I'll be fine," he assured her. "Rhonda is right here." With an uncertain nod, the pencil woman took her leave. "Did you just call her number 2? Asked Kate. "She prefers we use code names," explained Rhonda. "She's shy about her real name. For no good reason, if you ask me. It's a perfectly fine name." "For good reasons or not, we all have things we're shy about," said Mr. Benedict with a significant look at Sticky, who immediately took to polishing his glasses. Kate and Renee glanced at each other wonderingly. "I know you have questions," Mr. Benedict said, "and I might be able to offer some answers now, though some must come later on. So what's on your mind?" "I'd like to know who we're waiting for," said Kate. "That I can answer. Her name is Constance Contraire. A test taker like yourselves. I must say she's given us quite a turn. A most amusing child. Rhonda, how many pencils did you say she brought with her this morning?" 37, said Rhonda with a shake of her head. "We tell her to bring 1, and she brings 37. "How did you know that?" Sticky asked. Rhonda shrugged. "She told me so herself. Remember the storm drain? Constance stopped to help me, but instead of trying to get my pencil back, she simply opened her raincoat. She had pockets and pockets full of pencils. 37, she said. Just help yourself." "Wasn't that cheating?" Kate asked. "Why wasn't she disqualified?" "It was certainly taking a risk," said Mr. Benedict. "However, she refused to test the test answers Rhonda offered her, and the point of the test wasn't to see if you would bring only 1 pencil, you know. The pencil itself is inconsequential." Renee was curious about something else. Why she was wearing a raincoat. It was sunny outside today. "You're an attentive listener," said Mr. Benedict. "That should serve you well. It will serve all of us well, I dare say. As for the raincoat, I believe she wore it to conceal the pencils." "But why bring all those pencils?" Kate said, exasperated. "It's ridiculous." "If that amuses you, Kate," said Mr. Benedict, "you might also enjoy some of her test answers. Let me see. I believe I have them right here." He disappeared behind the desk again and followed closely by Rhonda, who stood watchfully as he shuffled among some papers. The children could see just the top of his rumpled head as he searched. "Ah, here it is," he said, stepping back around the desk. As before, Rhonda positioned herself close to his side. He scanned the pages. "Oh, here's a clever one. Do you remember the question from the first test? It reads, 'What is wrong with this statement?' And do you know what Constance wrote in reply? She wrote, 'What is wrong with you?'" At this, Mr. Benedict burst into laughter, a squeaky, rapid, stuttering explosion that sounded rather like a dolphin. The children's faces wrinkled in confusion. All right, we'll stop right there. Okay, let's see. Oh man, it's already 9:50. All right, you guys have homework. Write down the new characters that you've learned about. So, well, we've got Mr. Benedict now. You know a little bit more about Rhonda. A little bit more, you know a little bit more about the pencil woman. You probably haven't written her down yet. So, okay, that's what you got to do.